So, what are demons? In understanding the common denominators and patterns of those who are being possessed or afflicted by demons, I wanted to talk about what demons are. So, in the Bible, demons are the angels that rebelled against God and followed after Satan in rebelling against God. They were cast out of heaven. They're very powerful, and they have the ability to shift their appearance, which we see in Scripture. We see angels shifting their appearance to appear before men. Demons do the same thing. They often and occasionally will show themselves in the physical realm, but they dwell in the spiritual realm. Their end is to mock and rebel against God completely, to set themselves up as gods and leaders among men and rulers. And their end, just like Satan's, is to steal, kill, and destroy people. In so doing, the only name they fear is Jesus. And all of their fear and blasphemy and mocking goes towards Jesus Christ, the Bible, God, Christianity, Christians. I've heard that they also mock Mary, the mother of Jesus, but I've never heard that in person or seen that in person. I've just heard that that's a thing. Against us humans, they are teamed up with Satan, who is the father of lies. They are primarily liars and deceivers who want to bring down as many people as they can with them in their mocking and blasphemy against God. That's who demons are. What do they disguise themselves as? You're probably going to laugh at some of these examples, but these are true examples. They disguise themselves and deceive us by masquerading as people who have died. They masquerade as ghosts, masquerade as aliens. I think my opinion is that every account of aliens in history is demonic, and that is what abductions are. It's all very demonic. With that being said, recently I've been researching about mermaids. In other cultures, there's apparently water demons that actually destroy people too. And you're going to see some of the common denominators also apply to them too. They will disguise themselves as powers, as spirit guides, as gods or spiritual figures, fantastical creatures, prophets, angels, accurate horoscopes, karma working in your favor. They appear as the universe having apparent favor on you, on a person. They appear as lizard men, as mechanical dwarves, goat men. A lot of those are common with hallucinogenic drugs and astral projection. They appear as accurate tarot card readings and Ouija board predictions and psychic readings. With that being said, what are demons' end goals with us? With us as human beings, what are they after? So I'll preclude this with magic and witchcraft in the dictionary. All the synonyms usually have to do with us trying to obtain power and control over nature, over time, over space, over spiritual matters, over the universe in any way that we can. And this always has a cost to it, namely your soul and your way of life. So with that being said, there's 6 things that I think 6 steps that demons take to deceive us and get us to their end goal. Those 6 steps are: 1, after a demon has deceived someone into thinking that that demon is who they say they are, demons usually will try to get people into, their typical first tactics are to get people to dabble in things that look innocent in appearance, getting them to dabble in occult things and getting them away from God, from the Bible, and especially from the church and others. Step 2, isolation. They're going to be trying to get them alone, or trying to get them into groups of other people that are also very deceived with the same occult things. Step 3, after that, it goes more into trading of powers to that human being for the slavery and bondage of that person's soul. And this is a process of them stealing and killing from that person and destroying them little by little. Step 4, if the victim follows the demons to their intended end, it could manifest in the victim being possessed. So this is actually encouraged in other cultures, especially animistic cultures. People are encouraged to become possessed so that they can take on their spirit's powers, the demons' powers. It usually ends up in suicidal depression and panic attacks. with being possessed too. And step 5, demons, if demons get their ways, if people follow demons to their intended ends, demons are going to start asking for sacrifices. They are going to want animal sacrifices at first, just to get them started. They want the blood of animals. And then step 6 is they're going to desire the blood of children. So I know that sounds fantastical, but you read accounts, that's where it's going. And that's what's happening in our culture. We already have it going on. Right now, it's under the guise of abortion. Abortion is the medical demonic temple of sacrifice. Abortion is demonic in nature. Its intended end is the victim sacrificing their child's blood to demons in exchange for choice, in exchange for more licentious living, greedy living, selfish living, to do what they want to do with their lives and not to raise the child that they're responsible for. Always, that's where abortion's going. And our culture is already headed not just into pagan occultism and New Age witchcraft and all that, but it is also headed straight into child sacrifice out of the womb. That's what New York was proposing when they said that abortion is not just fetuses in the womb, it's children after they are born out of the mother. So that's where we're headed. We're already headed into child sacrifice. With that, I'm going to be predicting, I don't know when, but I'm predicting that our culture is also headed straight for pedophilia and bestiality. It's going to be definitely, I think, incurring of God's wrath and judgment on America. It's already happening in other cultures. So in history, other cultures and countries that were doing child sacrifices are the Aztecs, the Mayans, Babylon, Celtic tribes, the Incans. They usually built pyramids, and they would sacrifice at the top of the pyramid to their demons, usually while taking hallucinogenic drugs. Sometimes there would be rape involved, but they would sacrifice children to their gods, to their demons that they were serving. And sometimes they would take on drinking of the blood and cannibalism, completely destruction of life. So that's what demons are doing. So why? Why do demons want these things? So going with what I just said about demons, what do we know about them? Their whole point is to set themselves up as gods, to mock and blaspheme the true God in any way that they can. And they do all this by stealing, killing, and destroying human beings. Why sacrifice? Why blood? Well, who are they mocking when they're trying to sacrifice? Who was the first one to instigate sacrifice in history, in the Old Testament? God was. But it was done in a righteous way. If you don't know the story, I'd recommend reading Genesis 1 through 5. It's a quick read, maybe like 3 minutes. But when the first humans, Adam and Eve, when they disobeyed God in order to be like God, they set themselves up as gods by following Satan, who was also setting himself up as God. They committed the first sin. And the first act of evil, the first act of disobedience against God, the God who had created them, the God who was providing for them and gave them all things. They hid from God in shame, because that's what sin does. It makes you hide. It makes you run from God. It's like a thief running from the police. That's how it goes. That's what sin makes us want to do. But God wanted to restore the relationship with them. The payment for sin is blood. That's where our life is. It says in the Bible that the life is in the blood. And we know from science that you can find out about a person's life and their livelihood, how much vitamin D they have in their body, and what if there's diseases, by taking blood. Blood is a magical, wonderful thing. It is fantastic. Anyway, so God was the first one to instigate sacrifice. He did this by sacrificing an animal. It doesn't say what kind of animal, but he clothed Adam and Eve with clothing with the skin of the animal. And that was a symbol of what was to come. That was a symbol of the major sacrifice that was to come. So after this, a sacrificial system of payment for sins by sacrificing animals was put into place. And there were rules and orders concerning these animals, but they couldn't pay for completely for the sins of the people. Why? Because what do sinners do? We keep on sinning. That's what sinners do. So God knew this. This was part of the story. He planned this in because it was going to lead up to the major sacrifice, which was Jesus giving his life and his lifeblood to pay once for all time the sins of the people against a just God. With Jesus, Why it could work even to save sinners is due to the fact that he wasn't just a human sacrifice. He was the God of the universe, the creator. He was goodness itself. He was holiness and perfection. And so shedding his blood and dying for humanity would work in this case because he was the perfect sacrifice for all sin. That's what all of creation and history is leading up to. It is also what it is pointing back to. And that's what demons are mocking when they're asking for sacrifices of children. They aren't paying for sins, they're adding to them, and they're mocking God. So what about the sacrifice of Abraham and his son Isaac in the Bible? When God commanded Abraham to sacrifice Isaac in Genesis 22. This was different than demons and cults, and here's why. 2 reasons. 1, God had promised that the world would be saved and multiplied through Isaac's line, so Abraham knew that God would either do what God did and cancel the order, or 2, which it says in Hebrews 11, is what happened, that Abraham knew that God could and would raise Isaac from the dead if Abraham actually carried out the sacrifice of his son. With that being said, I am of the opinion, though it's of opinion, that Isaac, as the time was getting closer to being sacrificed, that he was very aware of what was going on, and he had his father's faith. I think that he actually became willing to be sacrificed because I think he knew what Abraham was commanded to do. There may have been a conversation saying, God told me to do this and I got to obey him, but I trust him. He's going to raise you from the dead. I think Isaac was also picturing and foreshadowing the willingness of Jesus to go to the cross also in this, and very aware that he was going to his death. And God didn't have Isaac killed, but provided a ram for the burnt offering sacrifice. In the rest of the Bible, God forbids all child sacrifice.